This light right here, the Asta 20, has served me well on my travels. However, it's time to upgrade. So this is what you get when you receive the package. It comes with the light, the power supply, as well as the mounting equipment, which is a L-shaped clamp. You get a controller and a few zip ties to hold the wire together. Now, this light is a fairly large brick for a nano tank, but it is running based on heat sinks, and I like the idea that it is large, mainly for the reason that I needed a light that got really good spread on my tank. So this is what the light looks like when the clamp is basically fully assembled with the light on it. It's fairly simple, and I'll show you guys also what it looks like right on my tank. So you use the two screws on top to just hold it in place, and you can slide it back and forth depending on how far back or forward you want the light on your tank, which makes it pretty simple to do. This light has 4 light channels, 2 high intensity channels and 2 low intensity channels. Currently you're seeing the 10K white high intensity channel. This consists of 3 3-watt LEDs. So the next channel is one of the low intensity channels. This is the night channel. This uses what I believe are 5630 SMD LEDs. This channel has 12 LEDs in total, with 11 420 nanometer LEDs and 1 510 nanometer LEDs. The third channel after this is the high intensity blues, with 6 LEDs that are running at 3 watts. So there are 4 470 nanometer blues and 2 450 nanometer blues. And the last channel is the 450K whites. This has 3 of those 5630 LEDs. I mainly picked this light over other budget LED options is because it uses 120 degree reflectors rather than optics, which makes it good for spread. On top of that, you can see it also has a diffuser on top of these LEDs. And you can see for how budget light, it has many different color spectrums compared to some of these other budget options. And the next thing I enjoy is the fact that it uses warm whites instead of red LEDs. Warm whites provide a broad spectrum red while being mixed in with other colors, rather than having like a single red, which usually makes a peak, or sometimes you could even visually see the single red LED in the tank. And just now you were just viewing the tank with, the light with all the LEDs on. So it is very bright, and in total this light runs at 30 watts at max. And it's not too white, so generally this is one of the lights that you could actually run at full power and not have a bad looking spectrum. So I finally got my new Popbloom LED setup on my system. This is how it looks. I did have to do a couple adjustments, and I just have the final touches to do for setting up this light. All that's left to do is with the few zip ties. It comes with 3 zip ties. I already zip tied one part of the cord. The rest is just to zip tie it so it looks a bit more clean. But other than that, my light is set up. This is actually the lowest mounting height on this clamp, which is pretty high. I actually never had my light close to this high. But as you can see, so since it's mounted significantly higher, as you know, the higher you mount something, the less power you get, but you also get better spread. Now this light is 30 watts compared to 15, so I'm not too worried about the reduced light you get from the additional height. So I've been running this light for quite a while before I made this video, and I figured this might come as a useful tip for some people who are running this light. I won't consider it a tip, just something to know more or less. But with this light, you have basically two options when you turn on the light, how you turn on the light, which is where it ramps up, so it ramps up from low brightness to max brightness, and then it ramps down, and then it transitions into the moonlights. Or you have the same ramp up again, and then it dims down until it turns off completely. But I like to view my tank with the moonlights on for a couple hours. It's nice to see high fluorescence in some of the corals outside the light on period. And the problem is that I have this tank in my room, and leaving the moonlights on all night is just not feasible for me. And I know some people might also not like this either. So I'm actually running this light on a timer. And why this matters is because by default, the light doesn't save like when you power off the light, it doesn't save the timer settings, but it does save the light intensity settings. So what this means is that you could turn on the light at a certain time, and it's going to turn on at full intensity, but then after 10 hours, this is the default setting it has when you power it on, after 10 hours it's going to start to dim down into the blues. So you could say run your light for 12 hours, and what's going to happen is after 10 hours it's going to dim down to the blues, and then after that your timer is going to turn it off so that you actually get a nice period of time with the blue lights just being on. And I know some people might like this better, because now the thing is though, when you do this, you're not going to have the ramp up. And I could imagine having the ramp up light period is especially useful if you have like very skittish fish or fish that jump. The ability that it ramps up might not startle the fish, so it's like it reduces the chance of fish jumping. My clownfish really isn't a jumper, so I'm not too worried about him jumping. Though I have heard about clownfish jumping before. It's not a common occurrence, especially for my clownfish. Mine just doesn't jump. But doing this light setting does allow you to get a few hours of the night lights on, but it kills your ability to ramp up the lights. And also you have to run a longer than 10-hour lighting schedule. So running a longer than 10-hour lighting schedule literally just means that you have to run your lights at max intensity for 10 hours plus the additional time that you want to view your blue lights. So it might be worthwhile for someone to actually run this on a timer like me, rather than using the built-in timing settings. So remember that this light still saves your light settings when you adjust it, but it's not gonna save your timing settings. So if I was to set it for 8 hours in hopes that it would ramp up to the blue channel in 8 hours instead, that will not happen. But you will get the blue channels after you wait 10 hours with this light on. So that really comes in handy, because now I could have my lights set to how I like to see it in the day, and then it could dim down to the blues, and then it'll turn off and I can still go to bed happily.
Turn up. Let's go.